Dans le podcast cette semaine, on reçoit Matthew Dunstan, auteur notamment d'Elysium et de Next Station London, pour parler des jeux qui l'ont marqué.
The beat of the drums echoes in the pulse beat of the young braves.
Salut les joueuses, salut les joueurs, je suis Paul Gara et on se retrouve pour une interview très spéciale. Nous sommes à Essen, on est au petit déjeuner, je suis en compagnie de Matthew Dunstan. Salut Matthew.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Matthew, to be available to have this interview.
No, thank you. I mean, it's you said it's a special interview. I think it's just a meeting of friends. I'm very happy to be here.
So it's a quite special interview because it's not a classic one. It's just I ask you a list of 5 board games that were important for you as a player, but maybe that also inspired you as a game designer. Was it easy to make your list or?
No, it wasn't easy, actually. I could have probably added a lot more things to it. And I think I broke the rules a little bit because I put non-games on my list. So, but it's a nice experience. You don't often look back.
Okay.
Very often.
First question, it was when have you discovered board games? Well, when you were a child? Have your family was a playing family or not? Or when you were a teenager?
Yeah, really, when I was quite young, I remember I played traditional card games with my grandmother, and when I was 5 or 6, and my aunt taught me chess when I was very young. I had a little traveling chessboard that I would pester the teachers at school to play chess with me. So yeah, I think I played sort of traditional games, but then when I was 10 or 11 or 12, I played Catan, and then it sort of started, but I didn't really keep gaming. It was only really at university I got really back into it, and really at the same time I started designing as well. So it was a playful childhood, but not full of like the modern games we have today, I guess.
Yeah. What was your first modern board game you played?
Catan, I think, probably. Yes. I think so, yes.
So we are going to start with your list. The first name you gave me was not a board game, in fact. It was a role-playing book. It's called, en français, c'est Loup Solitaire, and in English, it's...
Lone Wolf.
Yes, from Joe Dever.
Yes. I think I discovered it when I was probably 7, I think, in my school library. There was only 3 of them, and the series has 20 or 25 books. And I was hooked. I think as kids at that age, you find something and you're just sort of completely in it. It's a sort of a cross between a role-playing book and a choose-your-own-adventure. So you have numbered sections and you make a choice and go to another section. But you also have a character who has equipment and fights and statistics. And I think the key thing for it was one of the first series where your character stayed from book to book. So you would become more powerful over time, and you would find something in a previous book that you might use in a later book, and it all took place in this amazing world, very detailed and all different peoples, and it just captivated me. I don't think I hadn't seen anything like that, and the stories were great. I would reread them. I would try and go in the different directions and see what I could find, and I think. For me now, it's just such I don't know how you say it, like a central part of just like a core memory of mine, and it has I have a very strong emotional connection to it, because I think it probably subconsciously started me to think about games and different ways of playing and how you can be interested in these things and just getting lost in a world, but having that world. Unlike a regular book, having that world be something you can interact with and you can sort of touch and make choices about. So, and also it's sort of connected with. It was the first time I had to try and find things. So in Australia, the book series is Joe Dever is English, and it was hard to get the books in Australia, and I had to hunt. It took me probably 10 or 12 years to find all the books in secondhand bookstores and in shops And even that was also just a strong memory of what I was trying to do pretty much all throughout my childhood.
It was a kind of other game.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's like finding the grail,
Yes.
And I was really, really fortunate when I moved to the UK. I actually got to meet Joe Dever once, because unfortunately he died some number of years ago. And it was just one of those, I don't know, you very rarely get to meet someone who's had like a very profound influence on you at a distance, but so that it was a really special thing. So yeah, I think it. And what's the really great thing right now is actually the books are getting a resurgence. They're Joe Dever's son they're re-releasing master editions of all the books, and it's sort of suddenly there's this beautiful community of people like myself in their sort of mid-30s, mid-40s who have these memories, and they're kind of resharing it, and they're sharing it with their children. And that's also kind of like I'm kind of enjoying being part of. I'm not an active part of that community, but just kind of seeing people talk about having similar experience to me, and you realize as a game author, to have any small percentage of what Joe had an influence on a whole number of people around the world would be incredibly special. So, yeah, I can't make a list without it. And the only other funny story which I told you before was that I mentioned this on another podcast, I think, and then someone reached out to me who was actually making a board game about Lone Wolf. So, because I said, like, if I could work on one intellectual property, it would be. So, if that company's listening again, I can make another game. It would be good.
Yes, because I think it was an important role-playing books in France have the same lots of influence, I think, on people of my age, or maybe just people we were kids in the 80s, 90s, at the beginning of the 90s, because I think it was the first door to another world, in fact. And for me, it was the case because I discovered all the fantasy world with these books and with D&D. And I don't know. In my memory was I told you wizard or warlock of the
Fire Top Mountain. Yes,
because I don't know the name.
The fighting fantasy books by Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone.
And it was something very new because it was like something you have never seen before, and I completely understand your feeling. And you have still your books.
Yeah, you remind me of a sad point. I collected all the books, at least the first 20, and at the end of my high school, I decided to donate them back to the library of my school because I thought I didn't want somebody to have the same experience as me, to go to a library and only have 3 of them.
You wanted to share your...
Yeah, exactly. And also, actually, I had one copy of the last book that was released, which was released kind of when I was 16 or something. Little did I know that book is incredibly rare. They only printed 1,000 of them. And I also donated that. Much later on, I had a slight change of heart, and I was like, well, if they still have them, maybe they would give them back to me. But unfortunately, they disappeared. So they're gone, including this very rare, which I kind of, in a way, it's sort of funny. I think gamers are a bit the same. Some people are very like collectionist, or they want to, and I have to keep reminding myself that actually it's not about owning the books, really. Yes. I've already benefited from it, and I will be able to read them, and they're releasing new versions. It's a strong reminder that it's not about an object.
Yes,
it's about what it's created, the feeling and the inspiration, and trying to remember that, I guess.
You created a series of board games, adventure games, and do you think it's inspired for this reading also?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's that, and I also played games like Myst and Riven, these kind of open world puzzle games. So they were very strong. Yeah, a strong reference for me.
Okay, we are going to talk about the second one, and I have to say it's not very original, but you told me that many board gamers should have gave this answer, and of course it's because it's Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I mean, there is I feel like I should have listened to your other interviews, because has Theo and Bruno given the same answer or something?
Theo gave this answer because he was a referee for...
a judge, yes, I know, yes.
And Antoine Boza gave also the answer.
I think it's a game that... It's honestly a game that makes game designers. The players have to be designers to play the game. When you sit down, it's not like a board game where you open up and the instructions tell you, take this money, take this board. Magic says, before you can even play, you have to design your deck. You have to... And those skills of analysis and some maths and creativity, all the kind of skills that go into game design, go into when you make a deck in Magic. And I didn't, of course, think of it like that when I played Magic. I was just like, I wanted to play. But in retrospect, it's obvious why there's so many game designers have come from Magic, or it's an influence on them, because it's creating those skills. It's
the first step to
exactly. And I think, I mean, I can't. And again, and everyone has different stories about how it. Again, it's just something so pivotal. You don't know that how much it's changed your life. You don't know at the time. For me, I had a cousin who was really into Magic, And actually, unfortunately, he died when I was very young, and I never really got to play with him very much. And his mother gave me some of his cards and showed me where he used to buy cards. I was 10 years younger than him or something like that. And so there's even this very strong, I still have his cards, and it's something that transcends just the game.
Yes.
It's a whole way of life, a world around it. Even with Teo, we're both sitting here quite tired in the middle of fair, but with Teo, we were trying to find a time to play Magic during this. We're like, maybe at midnight we can just sit down and play, but we've given up. But it's I mean, what more could be said? I mean, it just is such a strong influence.
As you said, it's a game where you have something to do between all the plays. It's not the case for lots of board games.
I think it's something we can learn from, actually. I always keep thinking about, exactly. It's a game you play without even playing it.
Yeah.
And gosh, it would be great. I think role-playing, I think, is also, in some ways, has this sort of feeling, especially if you're a dungeon master and you're kind of creating the adventures that's kind of playing without playing. There's such a power in it, and I should remember that, because it would be a good thing to try and think about and see there must be other games that can try and access this space between the play.
Yes, because some people say that when you're playing, you are in kind of it's a magic circle. You're not in the real life, and it's something you accept new rules, and you can be another person, and you can do something. You are a betrayer and everything. And that kind of board games, they have impact on your real life. In fact, and I think, for example, Challengers, they exploit this idea. It's always a game, but there is something that they show you that they can have some very specific. Kind of specific moments where you don't know if you are in the game or outside the game. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this kind of like tournament play almost. And I think I feel like that's an underdeveloped kind of space in modern games. So, yeah.
And a kind of board games like Magic, card games, with lots of combo and everything. It's quite a great influence. Do you wanted to do your kind of homage to Magic and something?
Yeah, I mean, I've probably tried to make something like Elysium or Monumental, I think, are the kind of closest to that. I mean, there's a game later on the list that I probably just, Magic and these games, I'm trying to recreate that feeling. Yeah. But and actually, we're kind of living in trading card games are coming back right now. I was just thinking at Essen, we've got Locana and One Piece and Altered, which I need to play. I haven't, and it sort of feels like this weird. It must have been what it felt like in the 90s, right? Yeah. When there were all these games. It feels like we're in this kind of exciting new time. So maybe I'll get to make a TCG. Who knows?
But I think it's quite difficult to. I would say, I promise I don't talk with you with Elysium extension.
We're working. We're trying.
because in
France, I know, and I think I got some people excited after the last interview or something. And I'm trying.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the next board game. It's a board game from 2007 from Tom Lehman. And it's Race for the Galaxy. It's also card games with unique cards. I think each card is unique. We take the main mechanic of Puerto Rico. All the players play together at the same time, and you have rules, and it's a race.
Yeah, I think more and more when I think of Race to the Galaxy, I always thought, it's the next game, Magic, another combo game, another card game. Actually, I think the more I look back on it and how I still enjoy Race is actually for the efficiency of it. You say it's a race. Actually, that's the most important part of the game. When you play between two players, and I would say two-player is the best way to play Race for the Galaxy. They even have kind of special rules for it, which is quite good. You can play a game in 10 minutes.
Yes.
And the possibility space, what's possible that you can do in that 10 minutes is so large. I think actually that is the key amazing thing that Tom Lehman did, and the flow that you get into. There aren't a lot of games where you almost, I had a friend I would play. We worked together, and on lunch breaks we would play one or two games. We made leagues. You're so in sync with each other that it's almost like you can't keep up with the flow of the cards. You're just, the cards are coming down, you bring them up. It's again, it's something almost outside of a game. It's like not meditative exactly, but there's something, not a dance either, but it's something of that feeling of you're in concert with each other. You're so in sync,
focused on
focused, but also in sync with each other.
Yes.
You're it's not just yourself. You're reacting to what the other player is doing, but it's in it's the flow. It just has amazing flow, and his ability to have packed that much variety and excitement and surprise into a game that can last 10 minutes and that you just will play again and again and again and again and again, hundreds and hundreds of times, and never feel like, I mean, of course, the new cards are released and that helps a little bit, but it's an incredible achievement. It's something I think about. I think in modern games, that's actually more important than ever before. People have less time, or they're used to entertainment that is very seamless, that they don't have to, it doesn't push back on them and say like, oh, no, you have to do this. And so I think the more, it's funny that I say this for Race of the Galaxy. That's the experience when you know the game and it's so much fun. Of course, it is completely impossible to understand. Yes. When you first see the game, you'll play at least 5 times and have no idea what you're doing. And I think a modern game wouldn't... If Race of the Galaxy was released now, I wonder if it would become popular.
Yes.
Because we don't have the patience for that kind of...
Players now want board games that they can play immediately and they can understand immediately. And yes, Race for the Galaxy, it's very different when you know the cards, because you have lots of games, and you know which card you can expect.
Well, you've learned a language, effectively.
Yes.
Because also, we didn't talk about the symbology. It employed this very, not strange, very effective symbology, but a very difficult one to decipher. And it really is like learning a language. And when you have 2 people who know a language, they can speak and converse so quickly. But if you're one person who doesn't know the language, then you're just completely stuck. So I am so glad it exists. The selfish part of me wishes that we could make more games now that aren't so well understood on the first play, that they would still be able to get a chance to reach that kind of depth. I think the market now isn't so kind to games like that. But anyway, Race of the Galaxy made it, and it got in at the right time. And also, Tom is just an incredible... like Rez, I could have put... maybe I did put Rez Arcana on this list, but, has made a number of amazing games. I think he's an incredible game designer for that.
And in a Race for the Galaxy, especially when you play at 2 players, there is this gazing phase. It's give lots of interaction, very hard interaction, because everything depends on what you think your opponent is going to do, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's actually, it's a really good point you make, because I think maybe that's probably forgotten in my own games, maybe, that Race of the Galaxy is not just a combo game.
Yes. It
has that really strong point of interaction. A lot of more modern games are sort of lower on interaction. I've made plenty of them. And that's why it's this incredible creation that managed to do both, I think.
Yes, I totally agree with you, because if you look at this game as this board game, if you look criteria, there is no downtime, very fast to play. Of course, you need to know the cards, but it's just maybe the difficulty, but lots of interaction. And even if there's all these qualities that current players want, maybe this board game would not have so much importance if it was released today, in fact. It's quite strange.
I think sometimes, I'm not sure if you think this, that I wonder if gaming has these sort of, and maybe it's in other media like films or books, that there's only a set number of sort of like pillars, 10 or 20, films or books or games that everyone knows, there's a touchstone for everyone. But once those are filled, it's very hard to put new ones in. And I think probably 10 or 15 years ago, you're at the space where we were still adding a pillar, maybe one a year or one every 2 years. But now it's incredibly difficult. And you even think about the games that win large awards, Spiel des Jahres, Asdor, things like that. Even very few of them really change that kind of that pantheon of games that.
Yes.
And so it's really different being a designer now. You're sort of in some ways it's great because there's more players, there's more opportunities to make games. But it's harder to make a game that's really going to change
the
things.
world, yes.
Well, I mean, I mean, I would change a small part of the world.
Change the gaming world.
Yeah.
Yes, but yes, it's the way something board games that agree to everybody because we say that's very important. Maybe Terraforming Mars was one of the last.
Yeah, or Gloomhaven probably.
Yes,
I think.
Gloomhaven, yes.
But they're also in some ways they're very specific. Yeah, I mean, and they don't have to be games to appeal to everybody. I guess it's Magic isn't for everybody. But it's you want to just find the strong response from some part of the audience, and maybe that's also something to focus on. We don't have to make games that are for absolutely everybody. You just want to make it for the people who it's for.
Oh yes.
Sort of thing.
The Race for the Galaxy also was an inspiration for you. We were talking about Monumental or Elysium, yes.
I think I keep trying to design Race for the Galaxy, probably, and it creates other projects. I have another few games coming out that. But yeah, I never quite get there. But it's a good aim to go for.
Oh, yes. So the fourth board games is a more recent release game, and I think we are going to see the connection with your work. C'est Vollverplant in German, Metro X in French, from Hisashi Hayashi.
Yes, I sort of named both because the German edition weirdly made new maps, which was good. Yeah, I mean. This is a roll and write game, a route building game. Well, not really a route building game. The routes are sort of already there for you. You're sort of filling them in as you go. I could have probably put a whole bunch of different roll and write games, Ganschron's Clever, but I put this because it's probably the one I played the most. And I think it speaks to a little bit of the type of gamer that I change when I'm in my 30s or. For me, it was with my wife, we would play a game for 10 or 15 minutes every morning around breakfast time. So it always had to be something that fit into that space of time. Unfortunately, she doesn't like Race for the Galaxy. I mean, she's perfect in every way except for that one small flaw. But these roll and write games really fit that space really well. And it was sort of something relatively new. Maybe the genre is 10 or 15 years old or something like that. It gives you that excitement, that trying to complete something all in a very small period. And there's also something about having a piece of paper in front of you which kind of shows you, it's almost like the maps in Lone Wolf, not exactly, but it's like you want to kind of explore that. You can you can see it already. A lot of other games, like a card game, the deck hides all those possibilities. You can't see it at the start. Whereas these games, they put it out for you and they're like, go and get it, or like hope that you can get it if the cards or dice work out your way. And so I think the key thing about Metro X is the roll and write thing is very strong, and I enjoy that a lot of games. But I think the route building thing is also something that I've always been interested in. I like spatial games very much, and there's a whole class of sort of spatial, I call them spatial Euros, which, games which depend on how things are arranged together. And it's funny because they don't need a lot of rules, because we really intuitively understand, is something next to each other? Are they in the same place? And so you can get so much interesting interaction and game from that. And so you take that idea and the roll and write and put it together, and then you have that. Now, of course, you might see something like that from Next Station London. Yes. I should actually say probably for Next Station London, maybe even a stronger influence was a video game called Metro. Metro, I think it was called Metro. Which, if anyone plays it, it is literally you making a map that looks very much like the London Underground or something like that. But I think the mechanisms of flip and write and that sort of thing. Definitely, Metro X was a huge inspiration on that.
One of the other board game, and we talked about this in Berlin, that it's not a roll and write, but we can feel similar
feelings.
Yeah, some feelings. Yes, it's the Guild of the Merchant Explorers, and there is something about roll and write experience. Yeah,
definitely. And I've made. Have I made other ones? Maybe I have. I've definitely, and obviously I have postmark games, which are all roll and write games as well.
Print and play.
Roll and
play.
Roll and write games. And also those, actually the postmark games especially also have elements of route building or going on sort of journeys. They're spatial adventures on a sheet, effectively. So yeah, it's something I think... is this idea of simultaneous play as well. I think Guild of Merchant Explorers, you flip a card, we all do a thing. I think it's a very strong mechanism, and it fits the modern sensibility quite well, I think. Slight downside to it is not particularly interactive. We were talking about, and again, that's why Race of the Galaxy does this. And I am still amazed. I'm still searching out games, I think, which can do that simultaneous system or speed, and mix them. It doesn't have to be heavily interactive. It just has to have some key point, and so it's probably something I keep trying to think about how to do that well, I guess.
Next Station London was a big success, and after you design Next Station Tokyo, Next Station Paris. Is it something you're going to go on with your publisher?
Maybe. I'm not sure. It's sort of interesting. It's kind of the first time in my career where I've been really fortunate to have a game like this, and it's a game that you can keep releasing things. At some point, you sort of think like, I can, but should I release more things? Because it's sort of funny if, in some ways, it would have been great as a Postmark game because we can keep releasing new things for Postmark as free files that people could play. But when you keep making a physical product, you wonder whether are you really adding something. It's an incredibly privileged thing to think, because normally I'd say, of course, you need to live and make money and release the game. That's fine. But I think I'm starting to think right now, reflecting what to do with the series and with Blue Orange, the publisher. Is there something I can give to the players really want? There's obviously a group of players who really love the game. Is there something slightly different I can give them? Is there something that they wish, something a bit special that's not just another box? I think there's great value in another box. I think it brings new sensations, and people who really love the series will gladly play another box. But I'm just sort of thinking, I want to make a bit more of an effort, maybe. Not that I don't make an effort in each of the designs, but something a bit more, maybe. So if anyone's listening and would really like something in Next Station, do let me know.
Because yes, I understand you say because you can do all the underground in the world if you want, but maybe it's when it's one too much, in fact, too much, and
when is something finished?
Yes,
and I just thought of a quote. Do you live so long as a hero to become the villain or something? I think of, this is not to throw shade at Donald X, but think of the game Dominion. Amazing game.
Yes,
I would say that the fact that there are still expansions getting made for the game that kind of increasingly become complex, and they're so far away from the original experience, and they add so much stuff and
too much maybe, and
I look, and I'm not judging, and absolutely, if you have ideas and design, that's fine. But I think it's not something that's talked about very much because it doesn't happen. But it's like, when do you finish? It's like a TV series. When do you make another series, or when do you actually say this is really the end? I've said what I want to say, and I'm happy to move on.
Yes, I think when you create something, when you're a designer, board game designer, or even a writer, there is a moment. It's difficult to keep to accept to leave your creation, because it's like not a baby, but
friends. It's like it's saying goodbye to a good friend, I guess, which is difficult.
For the last board games, you cheated because there are 2 board games you gave me. So the first is Onza Teutonica, and I really love this board game. So it's a wonderful board games from Andreas Steding in 2009, okay, and the 5 Tribes from Bruno Catala from 2014.
Yes, I guess there was a prelude when I talked about these spatial Euro games, and for me, these 2 are probably the best examples of that. And these are games where the systems are fairly simple, the rules are fairly simple, but it's all about how things are arranged on a board and all the complexity that comes from that. And importantly, with both of these, the interaction between the players, especially Hansa Teutonica.
Yes.
Never has a small wooden cube carried so much passive aggression as it does in Hansa Teutonica when somebody places it, to block you on a route. Also, Hansa Teutonica, I think, has the most perfect Euro interaction I think I've ever played in a game. For those who haven't played the game, that you're trying to fill in routes on a map, and you need to claim all the spaces on a route with your cubes to sort of claim it and get some benefit. But you can only do that if you've completely filled the route with your cubes. Someone else on their turn can put a cube on the final space in that route and effectively block you. And on your turn, you can displace them, but you have to pay an extra cost.
Yes.
And in fact, they get a bonus when they're displaced. They get to move that cube somewhere else, and they get another cube as a sort of a recompense. Just that rule completely makes the game. The game is not just about claiming your routes. It's about how much can you get in each other's way, how can you balance your own ideas and blocking your other opponents. But you're never stopped. I'm never destroying your route. I'm never making it impossible for you to do it. I'm just increasing the cost.
It's not a violent interaction.
No, well, although it can feel a little bit violent.
You can feel it, but it's not I destroy you. No, it's just it's a balance between what you accept to pay and to have your advantage, in fact.
Yeah, it's how inconvenient it is for you because you might go, well, if you've blocked me there, maybe I'll go somewhere else and you've wasted a cube there and I'll do something else. Talking about it makes me just want to actually play the game again because I haven't played it for a while.
It's a very streamlined game, I think, because as you say, in fact, there are 2 or 3 rules and it's very intuitive. We understand it because what you do correspond to what you are supposed to do in the thematic of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's and for a game that is, it's 15 years old now.
Yes.
I think I would tell it. I think there's probably a whole generation of gamers probably never heard of it potentially or never played it. Go out and play it. It looks questionable by today's standards. Just get past that and try it. And with 5 Tribes, I think I guess 5 Tribes in a way is almost like a modern. It's like that idea, but come to 10 years later or some number of time, and with improved production and a different type of, I guess it's more of a puzzle in a way. There's this idea of you look at the board and try and figure out what move is. I think I found it quite polarizing with people. Some people really don't like it because you have to kind of see, you have to see the flow of how these things work and the opportunities. It's very opportunistic. It's sort of something, there's something fun about that. It's like, you spot something and you just hope that nobody else sees this great little move that you can do. But the other important thing that I think 5 Tribes does is that every move influences every other move that's possible.
Yes.
Which is another great type of interaction. And personally, I think it's why Azul is so popular, or at least for me, it's the most important part of Azul, is that when I take tiles in Azul, that influences everything you could have done, or not everything, but it immediately changes your set of options. But I haven't attacked you. I haven't necessarily taken something away from you. I've just changed what's possible for you. And I of course, can try and do it in a way that would make it difficult for you. And I think that's something I also try and think about. How can you make a single action simultaneously something you want to do, but also that changes things for your opponents?
When we saw in Berlin, you told me about one of the ideas for my Guild of Merchant Explorers was the map. And in Satotonica, you have this wonderful map. It's something you are very sensitive.
Yes, I probably really like maps. And maybe I just want to keep. And in Postmark, we make a lot of maps. Maybe it goes back to Lone Wolf. Probably the favorite part of Lone Wolf is at the front of every book was a beautiful cartographic map of the section where the book was placed. But of course, this was a small part of a much larger map. I've just received, actually, as part of the new part of re-release of Lone Wolf, they've made a blanket with the entire map. It's about the size of the 2 by 2 meters or something, which I'm looking forward to look at soon. So yeah, I'm probably just obsessed with maps, I guess, and maybe I'll just keep. But I think I'm not alone. I think there are enough people who like maps too.
I also love opening my map in board games and just to discover, and because there is a kind of ancient charm when you see an old map and in Satotonica. We are talking about designing very streamlined board games, and because the less rules you have, better sometimes. I think the better it is. There is a board game you recently released with Brett Gilbert. It's Pray Another Day, because Pray Another Day is just one rule, in fact. How do you manage to have such just one rule? Just the idea was here, or you have lots of ideas and as working you take off some rules?
It's a good question. I think it's luck. I look back at Pray Another Day and I'm kind of, it's not something that comes naturally to me.
Okay.
And I have the greatest respect for anyone who makes games with one rule. I think something still like The Mind, for example, by Wolfgang Warsch is just
amazing.
It's like on a different level. So for me, I feel like it's a bit of luck. I mean, obviously I work at these things, but it's not like the game. You can't, in my opinion, you can't iterate towards these games. Either they are fun or they are not, and you can't. If you change something, well, you've basically just changed the game. It doesn't retain anything, and so I think we had the core idea about the animals, and that was a fun kind of action to kind of call out the animal. And the only real change I can remember is this moment when we realized that if you didn't knock each other out, that the winner should be based on the highest total of the cards they play, and it kind of flips the idea of, obviously the weaker animals are worse because you're more likely to be hunted, but if you survive, they're better at the end. I remember when we added that, or that rule basically, but that's it. That's all I can remember. Otherwise, it was pretty much formed. Interestingly, really the inspiration of that was we made a series of print and play games, card games, which had to be 18 cards or less, or 27 cards or less. So it was really about the form factor and what can you do in that. Maybe I should try and do that again. And the funny thing is that game was, we had it as a print and play for a long time. We tried to show it to publishers, didn't have a lot of luck for a long time, talking 6, 7, 8 years. Mm-hmm. It's sort of funny that it comes out now and I haven't had a surprise like that for a long time. This might sound a little bit jaded, but when you work as a game designer, you're probably used to small disappointments more than surprises generally. You know, you have hopes for a game when it's released and it does well, but maybe, it fades away quite quickly and you're like, okay, well, that's that. This Pray Another Day really is the biggest surprise I've had of the last years. And I'm so glad, really, Edition Spielwiss did, the publisher, the visual identity of the game. I mean, of course, the theme is actually very important to the game.
Yes.
It's not just the illustration, it's like the art direction of that game. Yes. I love it. I know there are people who hate it. The French edition, I know they actually changed the art.
Yes, they changed the illustration.
Yes.
Because I think the illustration was what you say, clivant, means that it's opposite.
Divisive or something.
Yes, exactly. And in my opinion, I prefer the German. I prefer the German.
So do I. It's the first game cover of mine that I want to print out and have as a large film poster on my wall or something. I hope I will do that. No, I can't really say much more. I'm just grateful actually, because I think the only other thing with these games is we're at Essen right now, and it's so hard to know what games are going to catch.
Yes.
I think Pray Another Day is a good game, but I know of plenty other very smart, simple, small games that don't ever get that level of notoriety. And at the halls, we have 1,000 games, and I'm sure there are at least 5 or 6 that are just as good. It's what's the word? It's not like luck. It's you can't control it. So I'm grateful, and I'm just enjoying it.
Okay. And to close the discussion, do you want to talk about your next release or? No,
I just want to thank you, Polgar. I was reflecting. It's a happy thing. We were talking about saying goodbye to good friends, and when I get to the end of the interview, it's a small sadness realizing I very much enjoy the time with you, and that we live so far away from each other. So I don't think I'm going to be able to keep getting nominated for the Spiel, so we can keep talking. It's a difficult way to maintain a friendship. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and have a good day. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.